Jesus looked for the worst sinner. John 4 verses 3 to 9. Jesus came to this world to save sinners. 1 Timothy 1 verse 15 here is a trustworthy saying that deserves full acceptance. Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am the worst. John 4 verse 3. Jesus went to Jerusalem to celebrate the Passover, and on his way back he chose the more difficult way of Samaria to save a sinner who was the laughingstock of the world. Samaria was between Judea and Galilee. The Samaritans treated the Jews harshly because the Jews not only did not associate with the Samaritans, but also looked down on them. So they were reluctant to pass through Samaria, and often went around Samaria by going around the east side of the Jordan River. Nevertheless, Jesus decided to pass through Samaria to save the Samaritan woman and the Samaritans. John 4 verse 5. He came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the field that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. And this town of Sychar was one of the oldest cities, and in Old Testament times it was known as Shechem. Jacob had bought this place and given it to Joseph. It was part of Jacob's pasture, and there was a well nearby. John 4 verse 6. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, being wearied from his journey, sat down beside the well. It was about the 6th hour. Jacob's well was large and deep enough for a man to stand in the middle of. Jesus, tired, sat down near the well. At that time it was the 6th hour. It is 12 noon by today's time. The 6th hour was the Jewish lunch hour, so the disciples went to buy food. And at this time the land of Samaria, which is almost like a desert, is so hot that no one comes to draw water. But at this hot time there was a woman who came to draw water. This woman was not an ordinary woman. John 4 verse 7. A Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." It was a hot, sunny day, and Jesus was tired from his journey. Jesus asked the Samaritan woman who had come to draw water, "Give me a drink." John 4 verse 8. His disciples had gone into the town to buy food. The disciples had gone into the town to buy lunch, and perhaps only John, the youngest disciple, was left behind. John 4 verse 9. The Samaritan woman said to him, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman?" For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans. Here, let's take a quick look at the reason why Jews do not associate with Samaritans. If we understand this reason, we can better understand the conversation between Jesus and the Samaritan woman. The background of the division between Judea and Samaria, Israel. If you read 1 Kings 11 verse 26 to 12:33, you will understand it well. I will summarize briefly. When Solomon died, Israel was divided into 2 countries during the reign of Solomon's son Rehoboam. Rehoboam ruled over the country called Judah, which was centered on the tribe of Judah. This is where the word Jew comes from. Then Jeroboam gathered the 10 tribes and ruled over the country called Israel. Samaria is the name given to Israel after its destruction by Assyria. The decisive reason why the people of Judah opposed the Samaritans was that when Israel was destroyed by the king of Assyria, the king of Assyria brought pagans and idolaters from various parts of the world and settled them in Samaria, and they made them intermarry with each other. 2 Kings 17 verse 24. As a result, there were many idolaters in Samaria. The Samaritans had mixed blood with foreigners through mixed marriages. They even worshipped idols. The Jews, who were legalists, could not possibly like these Samaritans. In particular, there are various purification rituals in Leviticus. The Jews who stayed away from unclean things also viewed these Samaritans as unclean. So when the Jews met the Samaritans, they thought they were unclean. The Samaritans also hated these Jews and became hostile towards them. That is why the Jews did not enter Samaria but turned away. What would the Samaritan woman have thought of Jesus approaching her in these social customs at that time? The Samaritan woman immediately recognized that Jesus was a Jew by looking at his clothing and language. You can immediately tell that the Samaritan woman was no ordinary woman. At that time, women did not talk to men and avoided them. But this Samaritan woman spoke to Jesus. This is something that is almost unimaginable. Jesus, the Son of God, whom no human being dares to approach, is approaching a sinner and speaking to him. Let's get into the mind of this Samaritan woman. This Samaritan woman must have thought the following when she saw Jesus. You seem to be a Jew, but Jews pass by their wives on the street and pretend not to recognize them. And even when they meet their mothers or sisters, they pass by pretending not to recognize them. This is the custom among you Jews. But now you, a Jew, ignore Jewish women outside your home. So how can you talk to me, a Samaritan woman who Jews do not associate with, and ask me for a drink? This Samaritan woman was going through something truly absurd. This was something so unimaginable that she thought the Jewish young man was a little crazy because he was so hot. So what this Samaritan woman said to Jesus was a mixture of laughter and mockery. At that time, the Jews refused to accept even the smallest favor or kindness from the hands of the Samaritans. But this Samaritan woman must have been surprised to see Jesus asking her for a drink. Jesus did not come to be served, but to save sinners. Jesus wants to save sinners who reject and mock him, like this Samaritan woman, to the end.